There is an epidemic of people who suffer from mental illness within our society. They are left to fight on their own without any assistance, and it is becoming more and more widespread. It is important, therefore, to persuade healthcare workers to enter the field of mental health and bring their skills to those who need them. What is mental illness? Mental illness includes a wide range of disorders of thinking, emotion, and/or behavior. There are many types of mental illness. Mental illness can be short-lived or long-term. Sometimes it can be hard to tell the difference between mental illness and normal worry or sadness. But mental illness is more severe, lasts longer, and significantly affects a person's ability to cope with life. The statistics on mental health regarding social and economic impact are alarming. Did you know that mental disorders such as schizophrenia have an annual rate of occurrence in 2 to 3 persons per every 10,000 citizens in the general population? This is common in several Caribbean countries such as Jamaica, Barbados, and Trinidad and Tobago, and is even higher on the smaller islands. In Trinidad and Tobago alone, the rate of suicide from mental illness is an average of 12.3 to every 100,000 persons, the highest in the Caribbean. Depression is the leading cause of ill health and disability worldwide. According to the latest estimates from WHO, more than 300 million people are now living with depression, an increase of more than 18% between 2005 and 2015. Lack of support for people with mental disorders, coupled with a fear of stigma, prevent many from accessing the treatment they need to live healthy, productive lives. An interview was done with a young healthcare professional, and this is what she had to say regarding the effects of mental illness and her passion for entering this field.
My name is Shalana Mahabir, and I'm a counseling psychologist. I've been working in this field for roughly around 2 years, and my passion for psychology and mental health stemmed from an innate desire to help others, and I've always been fascinated behind the motives on human behavior. My personal experience has been a range of different people, from students in high school to prisoners to substance abusers to regular people who work 9 to 5 jobs in organizations. So therefore, mental health affects, if not everyone, most people, and it doesn't discriminate based on sex or age or gender or income or anything like that. So there are a range of different disorders, and they can go from anxiety disorders to mood disorders like depression. There are psychotic disorders, there are personality disorders such as schizophrenia and bipolar disorder and stuff like that. Anxiety can be a feeling of nervousness. Depression ranges from a loss of appetite, no motivation to get up and do things during the day, and it goes on for a long period of time. There are a lot of stereotypes, especially in the Caribbean. People view mental illness as a defect or something that can't be fixed, or there's something wrong with that person if they experience mental problems. So in the Caribbean, like, they're seen as lazy or incompetent, or something is wrong with them, which is totally not true. Also, based on the mass media and horror movies portray people with psychotic disorders as volatile or aggressive, but studies actually suggest that only 3% of people who suffer with mental illnesses are actually violent. I definitely think more mental health workers should enter this field because, as I said before, in the Caribbean there's a stigma attached, and people need to be aware and know that physical health and mental health are both equally important, and they coincide with each other. They aren't mutually exclusive terms. So with more mental health people coming into this profession, they could change that stigma and erase that ignorance that we have revolving around mental health.
I have a diagnosis of bipolar disorder. I was diagnosed 4 years ago. Prior to that, I had a diagnosis of depression. Trying to find the words to describe it, but it's almost impossible to. I couldn't sometimes leave the house. I remember one day I actually left the house and then got half another road, turned around crying and ran home. and I can only kind of describe it as my world physically getting smaller and just feeling this kind of crushing weight, and it was almost like I could just see my life closing down. Well, for me personally, I kind of went into the stage where I was sleeping, but then I couldn't sleep, so I was never really awake and I was never really asleep. This really unnatural feeling, I was suicidal at this point, and sat there, consciously, Googling different methods for suicide. But in 2010, I had a manic episode. I had no idea what was going on, and I ended up being sectioned, which is actually kind of the best thing that ever happened. It was then that I had a formal diagnosis of bipolar disorder. Okay, so I've been really blessed to receive different talking therapies. One of them was called Mood on Track, which was kind of like a classroom setting. Me and 9 other people with the condition. We would meet every Tuesday morning, and we would literally learn about bipolar disorder. I'm self-employed, and that's due to the stability that I've been able to achieve. I take my medication every single night like a good boy. I still see my CPN and my psychiatrist on a regular basis.
I would definitely tell them that helping others and having clients based on my experience, and you see that positive impact and that change on one life, and more people doing this would have a bigger impact on society. And when you get to know more people personally and you build a rapport with your clients, it's a really good feeling, and then you understand yourself better as well. I definitely think that, as I said before, you have an impact on one life, but if more mental health people come into this field, they would have impact on a variety of lives, and then we would have a greater impact on society, and then we could erase that stigma and have a more understanding, accepting culture where the Caribbean doesn't have that right now, I believe.
What would you say to professionals to persuade them to join the workforce?
So I would definitely say to do it. We should all band together and be more understanding and compassionate for our fellow men, because we're all equal regardless. We all cope with different things in different ways, and we shouldn't neglect or ostracize other people for certain things. And I would give them different breathing techniques, imagery, stuff to work with them on a daily basis, and you have to keep at it. So every day is not just, okay, come to one therapy session and you feel better. You have to keep going, and it's like an active process to change your lifestyle, basically.
Thank you very much, Ms. Mahavi.
Okay, thank you for having me.
You're welcome.
Mental illness affects all of us. It could be our mothers, our fathers, brothers and sisters. It's in any family. It could also be you. Individuals with mental illnesses are greatly suffering, and we must come together and try to fight this growing epidemic. It is our duty to not abandon them. Almost half of adults experience symptoms of mental illness at some point. Depression is very common. The main treatments are medicines and counseling. Family, friends, and support groups can help people cope with mental illness. Fortunately, mental illness is treatable, and therefore varying levels of interventions can be utilized to produce improved outcomes. At the individual level, persons can live a balanced life, incorporating physical activity along with healthy food choices and good work-life balance, seeking assistance when needed and offering support to family, friends, and colleagues who are living with depression. At the national level, the government can invest in the funding of research and the provision of mental health services, making access to treatment readily available to those in need of it. With the increasing number of people suffering with mental illness, more professionals should join the workforce, and they must support the government's plan to win the battle against mental illness. If you are a mental health worker watching this, we need you. Join in the battle against mental illness.